Our guest this hour is author Fred Velez. A few years ago, he put out a book that was just fantastic called A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, The Monkees from a Fan's Perspective. Fred, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ghosty. Glad to be here. It's glad to have you back on the air.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad that you're returning not only to the show, but also with a new book, kind of a sequel in a way to your first book. Tell us about it.
Yes, the new book is called A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, The Monkees from International Fan Perspectives. And it is a sequel to my first book, which came out in 2014. It not only includes more monkey stories that have happened to me since 2014, but also more stories from fans, particularly from fans from around the world. So I have stories there from fans from England, from Japan, from Brazil, from South America, from Australia, as well as fans in the States. And they're all very fun. They're all very unique stories. I even have some exclusive interviews in here with Dino Kovis of the New Monkees and Valerie Carey's Vinay, the wife of the late Nick Vinay, who discovered the Beach Boys. Mm-hmm. And they both did great interviews and gave a lot of insights with Dino and into the New Monkees, and Valerie regarding her relationship and friendship with the Monkees, how she was Davy's stand-in in the show. And this is something that I found very interesting when I interviewed her, is how close Nick Vinay was going to be involved in the Monkees project. If you want to know more details, you got to get the book.
Yeah, absolutely. For the benefit of listeners in the audience who have no idea what you mean by the New Monkees, can you encapsulate what the New Monkees project was about and where that stands in monkey fandom in 2020?
Well, when the Monkees, Mickey, Davey, and Peter, came back to reunite for the 20th anniversary reunion tour, Columbia Pictures, Colex, then that used to be Screen Gems, it was Colex, decided to do a revival of the Monkees with new guys as a new group under the Monkees name. It was also produced by Bob Rafelson, Bert Schneider, and Steve Blonner, who were instrumental in the original Monkees project. And there was a lot of controversy with that at the time. The four guys involved, Dino Kovis, Marty Ross, Jared Chandler, and Larry Saltis, were involved in the big auditions. I was actually at the New York auditions. I auditioned for it. I didn't get it, but it was okay. But Dino and I think Larry were at that New York audition. The show came out in 1987. Sadly, it didn't do well because, unfortunately, it wasn't well written. While the Monkees were a network show, the New Monkees was a syndicated show, so they didn't have the quality of writers that the original series did. Where the Monkees had a first and second season, and they got all weirded up in the second season, but the first season had them as a struggling rock band. The New Monkees show had them established as a successful band already in a strange mansion where a lot of weird things started happening. It was like they skipped the first season, went directly to the second season and head.
Right.
So, and it's a shame because the four guys themselves were very talented. They were all good musicians, and the controversy about the name New Monkees was not their fault. They were promised that the show was going to be, and the project was going to be given a different name with advertised as from producers of the Monkees, but that didn't happen. And they were sadly ostracized, which wasn't fair because the Monkees themselves, if you remember, they were ostracized because they were perceived as not being a fake band and not playing their own instruments at the time. But the New Monkees, for a long time, were like on the fringe. They were like a footnote, and they see themselves as a footnote also. But they were all talented, and I interviewed Marty Ross was interviewed for the Zilch podcast, and his interview is in the book by permission of Ken Mills and Zilch. And I did an exclusive interview with Dino earlier this year. That's in the book. Their stories combined gives you a very unique perspective of the New Monkees, which is very revealing. And I think of fans who read the stories that Dino and Marty tell are going to say, wow, these guys went through a lot, and a lot of it was undeserved. Thing is that in recent years, the Monkees and the New Monkees have patched things up. They've buried the hatchet. not in their heads, but they buried the hatchet. And there have been joint appearances with members of the Monkees and the New Monkees at different events. And there are pictures in the book with Mike Nesmith, Mickey Dolenz posing with the members of the New Monkees. So I'm very glad to see that happen. And I always kept apologizing to Dino and Marty, saying, I'm sorry I was against you guys at the beginning. You guys are actually nice. But it's all water under the bridge for them, and I'm glad to see that there's a relationship there between the Monkees and New Monkees. And as Dino said, that there are 8 people in the world that were officially chosen as the Monkees by Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider. And that was Mickey, Davey, Peter, and Mike, and Marty, Dino, Jarrett, and Larry. So no matter what anybody says, they're officially part of the Monkee family.
Well, let's hear something from an original Monkee, Davy Jones, live in Japan, 1981, and we'll be back with more from Fred Velez. The first book was really your personal story and your interaction with all of the Monkees and sort of a document of your fandom through the years. And I think I might have compared it to Rob Schomburg's Growing Up with the Beatles book.
Right. His book was an inspiration for me. What was fun about writing the second book was that it was actually inspired from events from 2014 when the first book came out. I was at the Monkees convention in 2014 that Mike Nesmith made his first official convention appearance at, and fans were coming to my table buying the book and getting autographs from me, which was a new experience for me. And a lot of them, especially my friend Rosa from Brazil, said, why didn't you talk to me about my stories? I have stories too. And a lot of fans like from Japan and Australia and England were coming up to me saying the exact same things. And that's right. I could have gotten more stories like that. But as I was focused on selling the first book, I put the idea on the back burner. And then I finally decided a couple of years ago to go ahead and go full speed ahead with the book. And then life happens. As John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. I got very ill, very seriously ill. I needed a major surgery. And let's put it this way, if things hadn't gone right, there wouldn't have been a second book.
Yeesh.
So after my recovery, I was able to try and focus more on the book. And unfortunately, Peter Tork passed away during the process, and I would have loved Peter to have seen this book. I did give him a copy of the first one.
Oh, good.
And the book is dedicated to Peter Tork as well as to those close to the Monkees that have since gone on, like Samantha Just, Mickey's first wife, Phyllis Nesmith, Mike's first wife, director James Frawley, Lou Richard, Adam Schlesinger, and of course it's dedicated to Peter Tork.
The title says it right there that it's an international fan's perspective. So I think there's, and I've run across this, there are people who say, well, the Monkees were only popular in America. But that's actually not the case. The Monkees were a global phenomenon and still are to some degree.
They are. I mean, they're huge in Australia. They still have a fantastic following in Japan and in England. And like I said, my friend Rosa Villegas, who inspired me to work on the second book, her story is amazing about how she came all the way from her country to the United States just to see concerts by Davey, by Peter, and then the Monkees. So, and her experiences with them, and also my friend Sandy Cayley in England. She also came all the way from there just to see the shows in the United States, especially the Pantages show in 2016 for the 50th anniversary of the Monkees, which was touted to have been Michael Nesmith's last concert with the Monkees, but sadly it was Peter Tork's last concert with Mike as a member of the Monkees. So it was the last concert for a Monkee as a group in that context, but it wasn't Mike.
The Monkees theme song in Italian here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. Our guest is author Fred Velez. His book, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, the Monkees from international fans' perspectives. And Fred, what do you think of the most recent Monkees project, the Mike and Mickey Show live album?
I think it's amazing. I think it's a fantastic album. It's the best Monkees live album that I think has come out. There have been previous live albums with the three Monkees, and there are bootlegs out there with the four of them.
Right.
And there is the 1967 official live album with the four of them. But Rhino did a fantastic job. Christian Nesmith did amazing with the mixing of the album. But it's a shame they don't have like a album of that quality with either the four of them or with at least the three keys. The three keys.
Yeah.
I mean, there are good live albums that are officially out there, but this one is the best sounding one. And to have so many of the Mike Nesmith songs in there with Mike singing it almost in the original key is incredible. And of course, Mickey Dolenz, his vocals have always been fantastic. I mean, he's definitely one of the top vocalists in rock and roll, and he should be more recognized for that.
And hopefully, Mickey's vocals and Mike's songwriting will be recognized on the upcoming Dolenz Sings Nesmith project, which should be coming out. I don't know when that's coming out, but I'm looking forward to it, that's for sure.
Well, it's in the process. It's coming up from 7A Records, and I can't wait for that one, because just to hear how Mickey's takes on Mike's songs, and I hope he does a lot of Mike's solo songs. I know Mickey's a big fan of Mike's solo, so I'd like to hear his spin on songs like Silver Moon or Joanne,
right?
And some of his Monkees ones too. Because as much as I love Michael Nesmith's Monkee songs, I'm of the opinion that his solo songs are actually better. So I'm looking forward to this release. It's going to be, I think fans are going to be pleasantly surprised by it.
So this is the all-important question, where would people go to get the sequel book, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, the Monkees from an international fan's perspective? Where would they go, Fred?
They would go to Amazon.com. They can get both the print book and the Kindle. So it's available in both. Plus, they could still get my first book, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, the Monkees from a fan's perspective. Got to push that one, too.
Sure.
You can get both books on Amazon.com, plus A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You. The first one you can also get on Apple iBooks and Barnes & Noble Nook. The second book is pretty much an Amazon production.
And as we go out, let's pick something from that Mike and Mickey Show CD. What song do you think we should play as we wrap this up? Oh, boy.
I would love to hear Birth of a Accidental Hipster. That is such a fantastic song with great duet between Mike and Mickey, and also great harmonies from the rest of the band, which includes Coco Dolenz, Christian Nesmith, and Circe Link. So I think that would be a good one to go with.
All right, we'll do it. Fred, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Ghosty. Glad to have you back on the air, sir.